everybody, and welcome to what normally would be Wednesday Live on Friday, which would have been at 5, but today is at noon because I have an opening to go to. Today, I wanted to cover something that we covered at our workshop in Dubuque. It's the very, very important technique of the beaded wash, or laying a wash and getting a very smooth, beautiful, seamless transition of color or gradation of color, depending on how you do it. And it's a kind of a technique that I hated to throw it to introductory people this early, but the earlier you'll learn it, the more practice you'll become at it, and the more satisfying the results you can get. So this will be a bit of a refresher for folks who are used to watching this all the time, but you can never practice this enough. So what is a beaded wash? It's a runny mix of paint that you apply and walk down the page. So I have a piece of paper here. The board's at about a 45-degree angle. I recommend for people who are beginning and just learning this, you might want to do it at a shallower angle, maybe 15 degrees. Hello, Judy. But it goes like this. First, you mix up a runny mix of paint. I'm going to use, in this case, boring burnt sienna. Maybe I'll put some cad red light into it. Lots of water. I tell folks to mix up more than twice as much as you think you're going to use, and that will probably be 2/3 of what you actually do need to use. So let's have some fun. Let's put some yellow in it. Let's make a fun color. We're going to execute this Caribbean-looking thing, but this is going to be just a kind of review of how we do a beaded wash. Now, why is it called beaded? Because when I start laying this on there will be a fat, wet bead of paint hanging at the bottom of the stroke, which we will then use to connect with the next stroke and walk it all the way down the page to get a very smooth blend. The thing that's very difficult for people to grasp who are new to watercolor is that a lot of times we don't physically blend the colors like you do with pastel or oil or acrylic or something like that. We let gravity and the water do the work, and it does it better than we ever can. So I need more. You always need more than you think you need. You can take this color and you can put other colors into it and use it later in the painting. So there's no such thing as wasting paint in watercolor. Use a big brush, use a soft-haired brush. This is the mop. The other thing I tell people to do not load it from the point, because if you load from the point, you're only going to fill the point. Gravity is going to pull that paint down to the point. Load from the side like that. And then when you make the stroke, this is a smaller brush, but you pull sideways. Don't try to do it like a pencil, like that. Pull from the side. Why is that? Well, what happens is if you think of our brush, here's all the hairs like this. And if you do them like this, you're only using that point. But when you lay them like this, they spread out. And the paint is being carried by those spaces between the hairs, the capillary action that's holding the paint. So that's why we do it that way. So you load the brush from the side, get it fully loaded. You make a stroke. See that little bead hanging there? You get it low again, Come up underneath, don't go across it, catch it, and walk it down. Notice how I'm holding the brush at the end. And I'm just letting the weight of the brush be the pressure that I need. Notice I skipped a little spot up there. You can paint around. Now it's very important not to starve this bead out. With a big brush like this, and I recommend that maybe you do it on a short run like this rather than a long horizontal run, you can usually get a couple of strokes, maybe even 3, maybe even 4. See, I'm coming up underneath, I'm picking it up, catching it, just kissing it. There's a little skip, you might like that. Look how many you can get out of that big brush. Now it's starting to starve here. This is when I want to go back and reload. Don't starve the bead. If you do, you will get a line. Now that bead waits for us too. What if we wanted to change to a redder color? Just like, see, that goes orange and it gets redder. Let's put some more red in there. Lots of it. Again, a runny mix, because only a runny mix will make a bead. Okay, see, we can change our color and we can get a very soft, gorgeous, seamless, beautiful, wonderful blend. And don't worry about the runs. Also, you notice I start off the tape and end off the tape. That way you don't get little sharp tooth shapes down at the end. Oh, look at this. That brush holds a lot. You always want to use a soft brush. You can do it with a smaller brush, but you have to reload more often because this kind of brush is just not going to hold as much paint. But it'll hold enough to get here. Now when you get to the bottom, here we go. This is important. When you get to the bottom, I'm leaving brushes sitting in the water. That's like a terrible boo-boo. I squeeze it out, and then I take the point and I mop up that excess. Believe it or not, that will literally go uphill. And you can get a beautiful seamless wash like that. Okay, so there's the beaded wash. I'm using this palette because I didn't want to dirty up this palette because I want to use more than one color when we execute this. By the way, the class did wonderfully on this. It's not an easy thing to learn the first go-around, and they did pretty darn good. Okay, now I'm going to get my regular palette. Hi, Michael. See you tonight. The reason we're doing this early is because the Art Domestique Gallery in Washington, Iowa is having their 10th anniversary exhibit from 5:30. The opening is from 5:30 to 7:30 tonight. And all the work will be of a black and white nature. There will be painting, there will be photography, there's creative people in this town. No telling what you're going to get. And really worth seeing. Of course, it'll be open for the month, and you can come and see that. But I didn't want to miss that opening, so that's why we're here at noon. So, now you notice here, this painting, it's kind of more yellowish up here, and then it gets a little redder, and then it goes to this blue, and there's a cloud in here, and that sort of thing. So, in the spirit of the cooking segment that will come afterwards, mise en place. Mix up all the colors you need. So we need a yellow ochre. I think I can, just like the last demo, I can add some red to it as I go. But what about that sun? How are we going to execute that? Let's see if I can put this here. You're probably wondering what this is about. Well, we're going to make, first let's do the draw. Very low horizon, so I'm going to add that about there. I'm going to have my sun, I'm going to try to go with what we have here. So I'm using this dot to be the sun, and it's going to create a resist, which I will take off. And then we'll have a nice big white spot. And then we can tint it with a little bit of yellow, just like the sun. Now, our subject. Now, do not be afraid of using a straight edge to get a straight line. I'm going to use this piece of paper. Well, I didn't do too bad there. The boat is going to overlap that. The boat is pretty much a tapered rectangle, long skinny rectangle at the back, and a sharpish bow. The important thing here is to make sure the water line of the boat is below the water line of the horizon. And it'll keep it from looking too flat. There's a little bit of a curve in this. Then we have the mast. It's a little bit off perfect vertical. Notice? It's also a little forward of the center of the hull. So if this was the center of that, I'm going to come a little bit forward. That is typical with any sailboat. So I'm going a little bit off vertical. And that's just a guideline. Here we go. Look at that. Hopefully that will. I pushed a little too hard. Sorry. Okay, so we have something of a cabin there. We have a boom with a sail furled in the bag. It's like a bag that has a zipper. There's some junk coming out of the back. I think a guy that lived in Annapolis would know the names of this stuff, right? There's a character sitting up here on looks like he's getting ready to fish or something. I don't know. A little bit of a prow there. But since that's dark, darker than everything in the background, we can paint right through it when we do this wash. And this little sticker is going to create our sun. So there's some other stuff back here that I want to, when I get down to this area, I'm going to try to stop. And again, that bead will wait. Okay, let's get a palette, lots of paint, big brush. Always mix up, look at this. I'm terrible, I can't seem to stand level. I always tilt things. I'm always cleaning my floor because I carry something into another room and spill it. All right, I'm going to smuggle, just for fun, a little bit of a bright yellow into this. I want it very sunny. Then as I come down, I'm going to introduce some of my reds. So here we go. Mix plenty, mix plenty, mix plenty. There's our bead. Don't starve it. want the red to begin soon, so I'm going to smuggle in just a little bit. Since gravity is going to pull this down, you want to start the change a little higher than where you actually anticipate it occurring. That way, when the gravity pulls it further down, it'll be about where you think it ought to be. Now I'm going to need more juice and a little bit more red. Maybe not that much. Here we go. Coming underneath the bead. Picking it up. You don't overlap. If you overlap the bead, what happens? You are going to lead part of it down, like we want to happen, but you are also going to squeegee part of the previous stroke off the paper. We don't want that. Okay, I'm going to start adding a little more alizarin. Getting close to starving that bead, so I want to make sure I got plenty of paint, runny consistency. Ooh, okay. If you get a little halo around your sun there, all the better. Now I'm going to be very careful here because right where I get to the, what do you call it? There's a place on the boat where you can stow gear underneath the hull. I'm going to try to go miss that. So more red, most red. See, as we need to paint around a shape, we could go right through that. It wouldn't be bad because it's darker. But now I am going to let this set up a little bit. Now we've also got, I have to blot this on the floor, or my pajamas or something. Look at this blue up here, ultramarine blue. I want to get a little bit of the naphthol red and make a dull purple. A little thicker moving, a little less runny than what we've been using. And because gravity's pulling this down, it's drier up here, a little less dry, a little wetter, very wet, because we just painted there. But now I'm going to try and do that thing where we put the thicker consistency of paint into the damp surface to get a shape with a soft edge. So I'm going to try to, starting over here, get a cloud. Maybe I'll put some smaller clouds that are farther away. Now notice that edge is not perfectly straight. It's kind of fuzzy, like the cloud edge is. That's why we go in at that stage. Now for the bottom of this thing, while that's working, I am going to mix up some stronger blue, the ultramarine blue. Maybe put a little Prussian in there too. Maybe a little bit of red. I don't want this blue to be royal blue. I want it to be just a little bit off blue, like indigo. Hi, Carol. I hope you're doing well. I think it's a little warmer down there than it is here, but it's pretty warm here. So this is, I can paint this through the hull, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to start on my horizon line. And if I get a little bit of a bleed up into the background there, I don't really care. I'm going to put a little more blue. I'm going to make this darker and more purpley as I come down. Now this is not as runny as the paint we've been using up here, so it's slower, but it's still going to form something of a bead, but I'm going to have to be a little quicker to keep a seamless sort of mix. See how that's a straight line? It's not forming much of a bead, so I want to be very careful to get to it quick. You don't have to go slow like this. You'll probably get a flat line. You want that bead. You want to pull a quick stroke. I'm going to make it a little purple-ish down towards the bottom. So you can see you can gradate your washes. I'm going to wait a second. I'm going to rinse this brush. Have a towel on the floor. I'm going to blot it down there. Squeeze it out. So I hope you can see. I hope you can see how that dribbles. There's oh dear, I'm sorry, Carol. I'm going to just dip into straight blue, maybe straight red, for a very thick paint. And I'm going to, while this is moist, now you've heard me talk about the hot cocoa in the mix, which is wet, and then you put the whipped cream on top. This is what we're sort of going to get here. But I can use this for the hull of the boat. And I think I may switch to my smaller brush at this point because I'm making a smaller shape. So I'm going to use the just straight blue, runnier mix, do the tops of the boat, making an irregular edge because there's other stuff up there. And I'm going to let that sit. I don't know if you can see this, there's lighter blue up here and darker blue on the hull proper, which is probably like navy blue, and if we could see it during the day, or maybe even black. So let's get the guy up here. Let's get the sail bag. Should be flat on the bottom. Something back here. Might be a flag or a pennant. Oh, goodness. Okay. Now, I can put a few more. Boat should have a little bit of a disturbance at the waterline. That's going to get darker right there. When we do these lines where it's wet, back here where it's drier, they're going to be very distinct. Down here where they're wetter, well, and if it's too obvious, smear it. Okay, now, I'm getting close to the point where I need to dry this. I'm going to get my blue, little bit of burnt sienna to make a blackish color. And I'm going to try to execute this hull. More burnt sienna. I chose something that would be a hard silhouette for a beginning project on this because I think it's a little easier. I don't know what that is, but it's something. The underneath portion of the boom. Okay, now at the water line, I'm going to rinse the brush, squeeze it out, and just pull along there. Soften that edge. Okay, let's put a little more brown in this. Maybe even some alizarin in your blues to get a dark color. I'm going to set that aside. Stroke for that mask. How can we do that? We can use our pinky as a maul stick and do that. You can get something straight and use it as a guide, like that. Or you can, when you do that, you want to make sure that you don't touch it down to the paper because paint could slide underneath. I'm going to use my pinky as a maul stick, and I'm going to resting on my pinky and pulling, come down and make that happen. And there's some little additional things that hold the different rigging and stuff like that. Now there's rigging here that's very, very fine. I don't know if you can see that. It's almost worth doing that in pencil. And if you look at some watercolors, that's pretty much how they do it. Make sure your mask gets all the way to the bottom and connects with the hull. You don't want a disconnected hull. Okay, this thing, you could do what I call the Shakespeare stroke. "'Twere done, 'twere best done quickly." Very quickly do it, rehearse it. I think the other ones I'm definitely going to do in pencil, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's peel our sun. And I should have peeled that earlier. So that oh, look what's happening over here, sunburst. If you've got a puddle at the edge of the tape, watch out that it doesn't become something else. But we're going to let this be what it is. And I'm going to just put a few little things like that. Cabin windows. We just look for where is it, how big is it, what shape is it. right on the boat there. Okay, so let's dry this. All right, we're back. Okay, I think this is too nice a boat for just one person. There ought to be a second person. Fussing around up there. I'm going to put, let's see. Shakespeare stroke, rehearse, Shakespeare stroke, rehearse, Shakespeare stroke, rehearse. Okay, now I need a little bit more, just some straight up blue. Variation in the water here. This surface is dry, so these are light mixes of very pale paint. Just some blue. And might even splatter some and smear them. Smear horizontal. Whoa, I got birds now. Okay, there's always birds out. Okay, now that sun. There ought to be some cloud going across it. I should have peeled it up earlier, right? I'll never make that same purple twice. Well, how can we do that? All right, this is a glaze. This surface is dry for the most part. You need to make it very wet and extend the wetness all the way through the shape so that we don't get a hard streaky edge. Okay, that we're going to need to dry, but I'm going to peel it first. What was really funny, there was a fellow in the class, and he had just been to Aruba, and he had a photo, and the boat was different, and the sun was in a little bit different position, but my goodness, it was literally this picture. So he went ahead and incorporated aspects of his vacation into his picture. It was really cool. Okay, so I'm going to just dry this a bit. Sorry, Mike. Okay, I forgot. So what I was doing there, I was saying when I make these marks, make sure that they're thinner, closer together at the back, thicker and farther apart at the front. And then for the sun here, just put a little yellow tint around the edge. Maybe even out into the sky area. And there's our, well, maybe you can even make that a little orange down here. Let's put a little bit of orange right at the horizon, just to make that look very sunsetty. And to soften that edge, I'm going to moisten and wet it. So, to review what we do when we do a beaded edge. Lots of paint, runny paint. If you're going to use more than one color, either have both colors mixed up or have a puddle big enough that you can insert the new color to change it as you go down. Don't load the brush from the tip, load the brush from the side in the puddle, that big puddle. Make sure that the brush is fully loaded. When you make a stroke, pull the stroke horizontally. Try to stay out at the end of the handle and let the weight of the brush on the paper be the pressure that you need on the stroke. The paper should be at a bit of an angle, somewhere between 15 and 45, so that the gravity can pull it down. Make sure that you don't overlap the bead. You don't want to be trying to physically blend it. You want to come up underneath the bead, catch it, take it across. Come up underneath, catch it, take it across. So, essential technique for so much painting. Do it quickly. Don't dawdle, like that. I notice some people doing, don't try to do it this way. Because what will happen is you will squeegee part of the stroke that you're making and you'll get light, dark striping. Remember to do this and let the weight of the wet brush on the paper be the pressure that you need. Okay, so that is, hope you guys, as far as the painting part of the session, that is what I wanted to get across.